Most of us are expecting Phase 2 to be dropping later on this month, hopefully. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the top 10 things I wish I knew when Season of Discovery launched. Whether you've been playing since the day of launch, or if you're brand new looking at YouTube videos trying to decide whether it's worth playing now, hopefully at least a couple of these tips will help you out. The first one's not just a tip that you can use now, you'll be able to use it for the rest of Season of Discovery's life cycle. Now, it's actually an add-on and it's called Logout Skips. What Logout Skips actually does is it shows you death skips and logout skips on your main map. So if I was to enable Logout Skips, it turns your map into an absolute mess. But what this actually does is marks X's on the map where there's a spirit healer or where there's an instance portal. When you're in a cave under the world terrain, but you're also just over a character's height in the air, so this could be stood on a tent or on a little rafter, when you log out, you'll log back in at the closest X in your section. One that I use a lot is if you was to perform a logout skip up here in Boulderlobe Mine, you're actually going to end up inside Orgrimmar when you log back in. Now, the reason I say this is really useful is for death skips as well. So if you're currently trying to get a certain rune and you're actually in a lot higher area than you should be, so let's say you was level 1 and you was trying to get all the way over to wetlands to be able to go into the cave to kill the elite owl so you can get your rune, knowing exactly where you're going to spawn if you die is really, really useful. Because what's the point of you running all the way from up here in the top left, let's say, down to this cave when you can literally just take a hit from something, spawn here, and then run down to the cave. Using these death skips to get around quicker, even if you're going to take 10-minute res sickness, can actually be really, really beneficial, and I've used it loads, and I only found out about this add-on during Season of Discovery, so it's actually quite a new discovery to me. But definitely worth checking out. As I say, it's called Logout Skips, and it is really, really useful. The next one that I wish I knew without having to go through the pain of running through that cave at Black Fathom Deeps every raid is the logout skip. Now, this is no secret. We see everyone doing it, but if you're someone who hasn't happened to see this logout skip before, for whatever reason, again, maybe you're brand new to the game, when you actually drop down into the water, head into Black Fathom Deeps, you can log out here, and then when you log back in, you actually end up right outside the portal to Black Fathom Deeps. Now, this is both good and bad, because if you actually need the letter that drops from the casters inside the cave still, everyone just skips straight to the instance and forgets that people actually need to do that quest still. So definitely make it known that you need to kill some of the mobs outside the instance if you haven't actually got that quest item drop yet. But if you have got that, obviously just doing this logout skip literally just makes life so much easier. The thing is, people have obviously cottoned onto this and everyone just camps this spot, so sometimes it's actually more difficult to log out to do the skip than it is just to run past them and try and get into the instance normally. In terms of actually getting around, Battleground teleports is another really useful one. So if we've got one of the guildies here who are in Ashenvale but they want to end up in Thunderbluff, I can invite either of them to a group, queue for a Warsong Gulch, and then when they get into the Warsong Gulch, they can just type AFK to come out of Warsong Gulch, and they'll actually end up here in Thunderbluff. Now, this is something I don't actually use anywhere near enough, but for actually travelling around really quickly or getting groups of people to Thunderbluff to be able to get their world buff before a raid, just a really easy one, very basic, you might already know it, but if you don't, and one of your mates like me are just stood in Thunderbluff and you want to get there quick, get them to queue you for a Battleground. Now, the next one is about getting runes early. Now, this is really important and really speeds up the leveling process of anything you decide to level. Yes, some of them are incredibly difficult to get on your own, but actually some of them are quite easily obtainable. Using the Rogue as an example, which I leveled recently, getting Saber Slash really speeds up the leveling process. But most people just say, well, you can't get it until you can use Sprint, because outside Shadowfang Keep, which already is in a higher level zone, if you're, let's say, level 1, one's an exaggeration, I think I've done it at level 5. But what you can actually do is send yourself some swiftness potions, make your way outside Shadowfang Keep, use a swiftness potion and jump to where the chest is, and bang, you've got your rune, and it's a super powerful rune. The same goes for things like warriors with Consumed by Rage. Yes, you need to kill an elite, but you don't actually need to kill it, you just need to loot it. And I already actually see in trade chat people selling summons to these rune locations so they can just boost you to get it really quick. Now, I actually got this before I even started leveling on my warrior when I had a very friendly druid by the name of Table Slam escort me all the way to wetlands and kill the owl for me. And it made leveling so much fun. Being able to level a warrior with Consume Rage right off the bat is actually pretty cool. They're not the only two you can do. You can go and get Star Surge really early as a druid. With enough help, you could even go and get Divine Storm really early as a paladin. Now, that one's a lot trickier, but absolutely doable. Overall, there's just tons of runes that actually are quite accessible if you've got a help in hand. And trust me, actually putting the effort in before you even start leveling to get a couple of these runes early, it actually makes the leveling even more fun than it already is. When you're next about to create a character that you want to level, look at what runes are physically obtainable, speak to some people you know, or check trade chat and see if people are actually summoning you there, and grab them as early as physically possible. While we're talking about runes, the next tip is not to actually just focus on your particular race's rune acquisition. Now, what I mean by this is what Blizzard have done is they've allowed different races to get runes in different ways, but there's not actually any continuity there at all. So as a mage, as an example, if you want to get Living Bomb and you're leveling in the Barrens, you can't get it until level 20 because you need Blink. And there's a puzzle where you stand in front of an etched carving and read an inscription, and then you just blink around this puzzle and you'll be able to get your Living Bomb rune. Now, whilst it's incredibly easy to get it this way, you do have to wait till 20. However, you could go over to Loch Modem, which is an alliance zone, and kill level 13 to 14s and get it very easily from them because it's just a random drop. Or you can even go over to Silverpine Forest and kill level 16 to 17 Rothhide Brutes, and that also has a chance of dropping an item which you then follow a quest chain and you'll get it at the end of that. So don't just think I'm leveling an undead, so I'm going to wait till I get it naturally here. Like, go wherever you can get it the earliest and easiest, because ultimately, again, using Living Bomb as an example, getting that nice and early to be able to multi-dot things on the move and kill them, it's going to make leveling not only that bit more fun, but a lot quicker as well. Now, there'll be tons of examples that I can give you on these runes, and using a mage again as an example, I was leveling a troll and a guildie of mine was leveling an undead. He had Living Flame by the time he was about 5, and I didn't get mine till I was 11 or 12. Now, I'm not saying at that low level it's worth running all over the world to just try and get a rune, but if it's going to be a powerful one that's going to speed up leveling, probably worth it. The next one is around the supply crates, and we know that these have actually seen a change in terms of what level of reputation you get your runes now, because it was honoured, but you can now get them at friendly and they're a lot cheaper. But don't delete these supply crates. Even if it's going to add 5 minutes on to getting a level, to run back to town, hand it in, and then go back to where you was, it's absolutely worth it. And using some of the tips we've already looked at, like the logout skip or the death skip, using that to actually get around quicker to make sure you're handing in as many of these as possible is definitely worth it, because you're going to have to do this when you're 25 anyway, so you might as well just do it on the way up. And actually, these lower level ones, because they're in 2 bands, the lower level ones that you're going to be getting at, let's say, level 5 to 10 or 5 to 15, they're going to be a lot cheaper to actually fill up and then get double or even triple the reputation for handing them in. Another one is BFD, and actually farming BFD solo. Well, not exactly solo, but you are in there on your own. Once you've actually gone in there and cleared it and you've now got a few days of the lockout, even though other people in your group might be doing what I'm about to tell you to do, you can go in every 30 minutes, have a swim round, collect clams where you can get iridescent pearls. There's even chests where you can get crafting materials, even greens, potentially even a blue, and you got no competition. You can literally just park yourself outside, wait 30 minutes, go back in and do it all again. It's just a great way of making gold, and if you're looking for something to do, it's something to do. It's not really something I've spent a great deal of time doing, if I'm completely honest with you, but I have done a few circuits around it, and it's fairly quick gold. Obviously, it will be less gold now than it was if I'd have told you this like 3 weeks ago, but still. Now, this is not really a tip that I wish I knew, but it's a tip, if you don't use it, that you'll wish you knew. If you're not new to the channel, you'd have seen me talk about Rested XP loads. Not just because every guide you actually buy benefits me, because it does. It's an affiliate link, so I get a bit of kickback on every guide you buy. I talk about it because it's actually really good. Not only is it the fastest way to level, but the fact that it's got the rune guides built in now just makes any time you create a new character an absolute breeze. That's not actually the reason I want to talk about it, though. My top tip is, if you're not using it already, use it from 1 to 20, because it's free. And in all fairness, you can get to about 24 with it, so then you only need to go out and work out 1 level's worth of XP yourself. When it comes to phase 2 and it's time to go from 25 to 40, of course, you'll need to buy the guide. But 1 to 20 is just built into it, as are the rune guides as well. So the tip is, it's free. Even just using it from 1 to 20, it'll be so much quicker than using something like Questy, or, I don't know, just grinding in the open world, or, you know, thinking you know the quickest way to level, because generally, I'd say for 99% of the people, Rested XP is the fastest way to level. So if you're not already using it, use it at least to like level 23, 24, and you're laughing. A real quick tip, because it's just so basic, but just what everybody should be doing. It doesn't matter whether you're level 25 or you're still leveling. You should always have your hearthstone set to Thunderbluff. That's if you're Horde, and obviously Darnassus if you're Alliance. It might add a little bit more travel time on when you're trying to get to somewhere, but as long as you're picking the flight paths up as you go, it shouldn't be an issue. The thing is, the boon of Black Fathom is being dropped pretty much every 5 minutes. If you're out leveling, there's no need to be leveling without boon of Black Fathom on, because it lasts 2 hours and it increases your movement speed by 20%. So getting 2 hours worth of 20% movement speed for a slight bit of inconvenience of having to halfstone every couple of hours and then fly back to where you were is an absolute no-brainer. So if you don't already do that, again, I apologise. I know that's really basic, but there'll be tons of people that, let's say, they've got a halfstone set to Crossroads because they're level 13 or 14 leveling. No, just get yourself to Thunderbluff, get the flight paths along the way, set your halfstone to Thunderbluff, get yourself your world buff, and then fly back to where you was. That was a quick one.
Hey, that's what she said.
And the last one is professions. Now, we know a lot of people are engineering for PvE purposes because the additional damage from things like grenades and dynamite is just too good to say no to. The thing is, Blizzard already in Phase 1 have made decent changes to things like leatherworking, blacksmith and tailoring where they can get an epic item, and we know that's going to continue on. I'm sure using engineering as an example will get some love at some point, most likely in the form of an epic gun. But currently it's so quick and so cheap to change your professions, you don't need to feel like you're locked into anything. So if you go tailoring, for example, very, very early, you go tailoring because you want to get those epic boots. Once you actually start getting ones that you can use from the raid, and those epic boots now just end up in your bag because you don't need that extra hit and you're not really that bothered about the cooldown on it, it will literally take you about 15 minutes to switch your profession to, let's now say, engineering. And the materials, they're just in such an abundance, especially, well, on the server I play on Living Flame EU, that it's just so cheap to max a profession that you just don't need to worry about it. So really my tip is don't feel locked into the professions that you've chose, because ditching one and then picking another one up, especially in Phase 1, is just not a big deal. I personally see myself changing my professions on my mage many, many times throughout Phase 2 and probably beyond. But that's it. They're my top 10 things that I wish I knew, and some of them that I wish you knew before you started playing Season of Discovery. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.